once 3 friends named David, Lion, and Squirtus. David had the talent of wisdom. Lion had the talent of resourcefulness. And Squirtus had the talent of creativity. One hot summer's day, the 3 friends were not satisfied with the day's entertainment. They stood together so that their combined talents might aid them in finding a solution to their problem. Lion gathered material with which a fire could be kept alive. Squirtus provided a chamber with which a fire could breathe. David ignited a spark with which a fire could combust. It was a good fire, and so the 3 friends gathered and breathed deeply so that the fumes might give them guidance. David, with his wisdom, said, "I see an adventure in our future." The other 2 friends were satisfied with this. Lion, with his resourcefulness, said,
"We'll take David's land's chariots so we may go far on our adventure."
The other 2 friends were impressed with this. Squirtus, with his creativity, said, "We will go to a trail so steep we might roll over, in a forest so thick that we might never escape." The other friends were unsure of this, and so they started another fire. Eventually, David and Lion were confident in what Squirtus had said, and so the plan was complete. The 3 friends boarded the land chariot and set off on their adventure. On the way to the trail, the 3 friends stopped at a market so that they could gather supplies they might need. David bought a flashlight so they could see if it got dark. Lion bought a rocket launcher so they could hunt if they got hungry. Squirtus bought a rope to make bundles of leaves to rest on if they got tired. When they tried to return to the land chariot, they found this impossible as there was a grotesque creature blocking their way. It spoke to them.
"I will let you pass, but there is a price you must pay,"
the creature said.
"If you're going my way, then you must take me with you and obey my every demand."
The 3 friends looked at each other with fear on their faces. The creature continued,
"If you are not going my way, you must answer a riddle, so that I may have something to entertain me while I wait here."
It looked at them with its soulless eyes, waiting for the 3 friends to respond to the offer. David was the first to speak. "We are traveling to a trail so steep that we might roll over, in a forest so thick that we might never escape." David paused and then said, "Somehow, I can't see your fat ass going our way. So, tell us your riddle." If the creature was offended by what David had said, it did not show. It simply held its gaze at David without expression. Then it spoke.
"Fine. A riddle it is then. What has 14 legs, smells like gasoline, and is obsessed with the Grateful Dead?"
A horrified look of surprise formed on the creature's face. Lion had pulled out his rocket launcher and fired a shell into the gut of the creature's bulbous belly. Suddenly, the creature was off balance, threatening to fall over backwards. It flailed what appeared to be its arms, attempting to regain control of its balance. There was a 3-foot wide hole going straight through the middle of the creature. Seizing the opportunity while the creature was distracted, Lion grabbed his 2 friends and shoved them through the gaping hole in the creature's belly. They were covered in a thick slime as they emerged from the back of the creature's body and fell onto the ground. At last the land chariot was in sight. They only had to get there before the creature was able to chase them down. It was already regaining some of its composure, and the hole in its body the friends had gone through was nearly sealed again. They ran as fast as they could, the slime on their shoes making running exceedingly difficult. Squirtus slipped and fell as the creature turned and started in the friends' direction. David looked back, but continued towards the land chariot. Lion stopped and reached out to help Squirtus back onto his feet.
"Go on without me, you ass face! I'll slow the creature down for you guys. Go!"
Squirtus yelled at Lion.
"Just get up, you idiot. Your legs are fine."
"Cool. Let's get out of here," Squirtus said. The creature was only 20 feet from them now and moving quickly. David was already in the land chariot and was speeding towards his friends. David never stopped as the tires squealed through a tight turn and Lion and Squirtus jumped onto the land chariot. The 3 friends had escaped the creature with only moments to spare. They could see the creature waving its arms with rage as it grew smaller with distance. With their supplies and talents, the three friends continued with their adventure. They were making good speed and saw the landscape change several times around them. They drove through narrow city streets. They saw two-lane highways with fields of whatever was growing on either side of them. They saw forests with critters and birds. Finally, they saw the rivers and the mountains. They decided that the trail they sought was surely near, and so they stopped to celebrate their arrival. A fire was once again started, and the friends sat around it. They rested and breathed in the smoke from the fire, preparing for the adventure that was so near. Lion, who was the first to leave the circle, said,
I will use my resourcefulness to find the trail by using the animals to guide me.
He left and headed into the woods in search of the trail they were looking for. When he came back, he said,
I found a trail over there. It's a good trail, and its slope is so steep that we might roll over. But there is not a forest so thick that we may never escape.
This trail was not the trail the friends were looking for. David, who was the second to leave the circle, said,
I only use my wisdom to find the trail by looking for clues to where the trail is.
He left and went in a different direction than Lion had gone. When he came back, he said,
I have found a trail over there. It is a good trail, and it has a forest so thick that we might never escape, but is not so steep as to cause us to roll over.
This was not the trail the friends were looking for. Squirtus, who had stayed in the circle the longest and had breathed in all the smoke, left the circle and went a different direction than the other two friends had gone. Squirtus knew that he must use his talent of creativity if they had any chance to find the trail they were looking for. He thought for a long time and then stood up to gather some leaves. Using some of the rope he bought, Squirtus fastened several leaves together to make a kite. When a strong breeze found its way to him, Squirtus held the kite above his head and soared into the sky. Once he was above the tree line, Squirtus could see everything around him. He saw both trails that Lion and David had found. He saw the mountain and the river, and then he saw it, a trail so steep that they might roll over, surrounded by a forest so thick that they might never escape. He punched a hole in his kite and gently fell to the ground. Upon his return, Squirtus told his friends what he had seen in the distance, and then told them how to get there. They jumped in the land chariot as quickly as they could, and sped off in that direction Squirtus had told them to go. They found the start of a trail, and so they got out of the land chariot to get a closer look. When they tried to walk on the trail, they were unable to find balance. This trail was very steep. When they tried to look through the canopy of trees, they were unable to see through them. This forest was very thick. Realizing that they had found the trail they were looking for, Squirtus hopped in the land chariot and eased it onto the trail. There were many dangers along their descent to the bottom of the hill, large rocks, fallen trees, and tire-swallowing holes among them. Halfway down the hill, one of the chariot's tires sank deeply into the earth, causing the rear of the chariot to shift violently upwards. The three friends were stuck. To free themselves, Lion and Squirtus jumped on the rear bumper, causing the stuck tire to become free. They continued through the treacherous descent until the ground finally started to level out and the land chariot became more stable. Upon reaching the bottom of the hill, the three friends stopped the land chariot so that they could survey their surroundings. The sun was beginning to fall behind the trees, plunging the forest into darkness. David pulled out his flashlight and turned it on so that the three friends could see. They could see the trail in front of them, but it was starting to become overgrown. David said, I am going to walk ahead on the trail in order to make sure that it remains clear enough to continue our travels. He turned, and as he did so, the beam from his flashlight fell onto a figure standing in the middle of the trail. It was just standing there far enough out of the light that it was hard to see the details of the figure's features. The figure spoke to them in a low, wispy voice.
I knew you were coming here tonight, and I thought I would arrange a little welcoming party for you, it said. My sister arrived shortly before you did, and told me how kind you were to her earlier.
Something big moved behind them. It sounded like it was somewhere between them and the land chariot. It was the creature from the marketplace. David turned his flashlight towards the creature, but quickly dropped it as his eyes turned to liquid and dripped to the ground. He screamed for a moment and then fell silent. Lion was the first to figure it out and said,
Looking at its hideousness in the beam of the flashlight makes your eyes bleed, Squirtus. Quick, Grab the light,
Squirtus said to Lion as the creature lumbered forward one heavy, labored step at a time. Lion bent over to pick up the flashlight just as the skinny figure swooped in from nowhere and seized Squirtus by the throat and picked him up off the ground. Squirtus studied the face of the figure, which even in the low reflecting glow of the light, he could make out more details of its face than he ever wanted to. It was awful, like looking at death itself.
Keep that light pointed at the ground, man. This thing's breath is bad enough to make eyes turn inside out. I'd hate to see what it looks like in the full light.
The figure ignored this and instead spoke to the creature, which was now heaving its mass over David's motionless body.
I don't think we ever introduced ourselves, sister,
it said.
How rude of us, sister. We should not forget our manners, especially when we have guests who have shown us such kind hospitality.
The creature spoke these last words with cold sarcasm.
Ah, of course you are right, sister.
The figure addressed Squirtus once again.
I am Blair, and that beautiful woman over there is my sister, Marguerite. Together, we are known as the Sisters of Fife.
Blair looked at Squirtus for a long moment and then continued.
Like I said earlier, we wanted to pay you back for the kindness you showed to Marguerite earlier today.
Squirtus was struggling to stay conscious as Blair still held her hand tightly around his throat. Suddenly, the light from the flashlight in Lion's hand was changing. It no longer cast its light into a wide area, but was now completely focused into a tight, narrow beam. Lion reacted instantly and pointed it at Blair's face. It had devastating consequences. Blair's face instantly melted into an unrecognizable blend of red-hot skin and blood. She let go of Squirtus and he fell to the ground. Lion pointed the flashlight at Blair again, this time sliding horizontally from left to right. Blair's body melted into two parts, both of which collapsed to the ground in two useless heaps. Marguerite bellowed a terrible cry at the loss of her sister and threw herself forward in a death hurl. For a moment, Squirtus could only see Marguerite's incredible bulk as it grew larger and closer. Lion thought quickly and tossed the flashlight to Squirtus. When Squirtus caught it, it was no longer a flashlight, but a sword. It wasn't just any sword either, but a cutlass sword, like that a pirate would carry. Its blade was still glowing brightly and shaking slightly as if it was trying to become a normal flashlight again. He tried to swing the sword around, but it was too late. Lion watched in horror as his friend was crushed by the equivalent of a Mack truck. Time froze and the reality of the situation began to wash over him as he realized that he was alone. And the flashlight was probably 4 miles below the ground by now. Then he heard a voice. What the hell is that smell? It was David.
It's the Sisters of Fife, David. Squirtus is dead. He was crushed by Marguerite. She is only a few feet in front of you,
Lion said, remembering David could no longer see. She must be unconscious. We must kill her now. Grab the rocket launcher quickly, David said. Just then, a light began to form along Marguerite's back. David and Squirtus froze, unable to move with fascination. A glowing blade emerged from the crack, and Squirtus followed behind it. As he did so, the world changed around them. The three friends were no longer on the trail in the forest, but somewhere new. They could smell ocean water, and there was a call of seagulls in the distance. They were standing in some sort of dusty alleyway. Squirtus walked to the end of the alley and looked around the corner. David and Lion heard a rough-sounding voice speak to him.
Welcome to Gasbelch Cove, you landlubbers. You'll not wantin' ter be leavin' any time soon, I not think.
Squirtus appeared around the corner and waved to David and Lion to let him know that it was okay. They followed him into Gasbelch Cove, and no one in the outside world ever heard from the three friends again.